Hey y'all, welcome back to Andy's Little Homestead. As we sit here right now, I've got a nice fracture in my foot. It's a funny story actually. A few weeks ago I went on a nice little 10-mile training run and my heel slash ankle type region started hurting a little bit. And I did the most reasonable thing that I knew how to do. I just snorted a line of ibuprofen and drank an energy drink and just moved on with my life. Well, the following weekend, Carlos talked me into signing up for a half marathon not too far from us. So I was like, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. That'll be fine. I took it easy that week. And you know, it still hurt when I started. And 13.1 miles later, it didn't feel any better. Craziest thing. And of course, from there, what I did was I just ignored it for like 2 more weeks. When it didn't feel better after that, I decided, okay, we actually need to do something about it. So I got a stress fracture in my heel. It's pretty awesome. Nope, actually, it sucks. It's terrible. Not a fan. Definitely not the worst pain in the whole world, but it's kept me from doing 2 things that I really enjoy doing. Some might say I'm addicted to, and that's working and running. I've done everything that I can to keep myself sane during this interim period. It's starting to feel a little bit better. I've definitely done more push-ups and flutter kicks than I've done in 15 years. Still, the whole thing's kind of, it's to be completely honest, it's gotten me down. It's been rough. Obviously, all my projects go slower because I'm hobbling around. And just in general, it's kind of just made me down, put me in a bit more of a depressive kind of day-to-day mindset, I guess you could say. I've talked about my struggles with depression and things like that before, and it's not something that's gone. And addiction is a component of that. And I've told this story before, but I'm going to mention it again. When I went to Grippy Sock Jail that one time in handcuffs, the most interesting thing, kind of the aha moment for me, was when the doc looked at me and he didn't call me an alcoholic. He looked at me straight in the eye. He said, "You're an addict." And he said, anything that gives you happy chemicals, you're going to run 100 miles an hour towards. And that is the way you are wired. He said, you cannot change that. You can work with that. That's your only option. And it really hit home for me. I was like, well, dang, yeah, that's kind of always been accurate. This is not the first time in my life where I've used exercise as an outlet for that kind of thing. I mean, there's not many 34-year-olds who wake up one day and say, you know what? Running a marathon, that's what we're doing. But it is a component in all of this. It's a component in every area of my life. I can't stop it. I can only work with it. Now, you'd think that using the functionality of one leg would make you feel more like a pirate, but I feel less like a pirate and more like a big woman in Walmart on the little scooter. I'm gonna pillage some grits from aisle 5. But anyway, yeah, no, it's kind of gotten me down. So the other day I was going through messages and I got a message from a guy who had reached out before. I'm not going to mention his name, but he was going through a tough time. Him and his wife had separated. He was kind of back in an apartment from being in a house and having, you know, just all those things. And you know, he didn't ask for advice, but I went ahead and just started talking because that's what I do, apparently. But it brought to mind one thing that happened early on in sobriety, and because there is a whole pile of suck that comes with that, and one of the things that I found that was effective at kind of keeping my mind right and keeping from getting too down and staying sober was to find the little good things in my life and cling to them and make them into big things. The best example that I have is I would get off of work and I'd come home and I would have a Mexican Coca-Cola, like the kind in the glass bottles with the cane sugar. That's the good stuff, man, I'm telling you. But that little thing was something that I turned into a big thing. I would take it from the fridge and I would get it and I would sit outside on the porch and I would drink it, and it was cold and it was refreshing, and it was in a way an alcohol substitute, but really it was more just the intentionality of this simple thing that I enjoy, I'm making it into a big thing. And there was other stuff too. The fact that I could wake up in the morning and hang a paint can off of it, and other things that I didn't realize had slipped over the years. When I'd wake up in the morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock and sit in my chair and have a cup of coffee, and I was like, man, I do like this chair. This is a good, comfy chair. And, you know, all those little things carried me through at least in part. And so I basically told this to the guy who reached out to me, and I'm in a place where I was like, you know, kind of really down, and it just kind of hit me. It hit me all at once. It hit me yesterday afternoon. Me and my wife and the boys had gone up to a place nearby that's famous for a certain type of stone, without being too specific. But we were sitting there by the water, and I was kind of down, and I was just scrolling on my phone, you know. So they were down there by the water. Go away. Go away. So they were down there by the water and picking rocks, things like that, and I was just sitting there being a depressed cow sitting in the grass. And I thought about the conversation I had with that guy. And I was like, dang, man, I am in a beautiful place. I've got a beautiful views, boats and things on the water. The grass is really nice and soft. And I thought maybe if I just took a minute to like put this thing down and appreciate it, that might help. So I thought about it. I was like, dang, I like this grass. This is good grass for sitting on. And I like that seagull over there. I don't know what he's doing. He looks shady, but he's kind of fun to watch. I watched the seagull just around for like 5 minutes. And then Luke came up and he showed me all of his rocks and things like that. And I may sound like a terrible parent, but I'm not always interested in everything that my kids bring to show me. But I acted like it. I looked at each individual one instead of just passing it off like, yeah, it's a nice rock, and then just moving on. I really made a point of looking at it through his eyes, like, oh yeah, man, this one's perfectly flat on the end, and that's weird, and oh, this one's kind of cool too. I can see the coral in that, and all these things, and it was like, it immediately just brought me back. And they were just little things. And I realized that that's something that I had kind of missed from my life. And you know, a lot of times I get people comment or message, they're like, hey man, how do you keep a good attitude in all these situations? Like, you know, when you're working on something, everything goes wrong or things break. And for the most part, I do, but there are other times where my brain is just not in it, and it really brings me down when it's difficult. And kind of remembering that little tool that I used to use in the early days of sobriety, that's something I can use again. Find the thing, find the little thing, and make it into a big thing. Giggity. It is not always easy. But I think that it starts with just being present, just being okay with existing. Not every moment has to be taken up with this and just scrolling, which don't scroll away yet. Like, you know, you can wait until I'm done talking. But y'all, it really turned things around for me. I'm feeling a lot better. And I think I'm going to continue that. This morning I sat in my chair, as torn up and ratty as it is, and I was like, dang, I like this chair. Man, this cup of coffee is good. So, I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what hand life has given to you today. But I think whether it's good or bad, whether you're in a rough spot or a really good one, I think it's worth it to take a few minutes. Think about them things that the good Lord's blessed you with, and make them into big things. It definitely helped me a lot. That's my truck talk. I should be done hobbling here in a couple more weeks. I really hadn't figured it out. We're kind of just making this up as we go along. Hopefully we'll have another project for you here soon. Sorry I'm late on this one. Dang, Mexican Coca-Colas, man, they come out barking, just loud. As always, I hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope you learned something. I love you. God bless. Yeah, I absolutely made a point of calling it Mexican Coca-Cola because I don't need people going around saying that I recommended as a cure for their depression Mexican Coke. They need some Mexican Coke to take care of their depression. Might work for a minute. Maybe, well, a few hours actually, but it's not what I'm recommending. Don't go doing that.